In Kingsport, atop a cliff that should not exist, stands a house. It's older than the town itself, older than the earliest colonial records. A perpetual mist wraps around it like a shroud, hiding something ancient. The fishermen whisper about it. The old families avoid looking up at it, because they know that what lives there isn't one of the great old ones, but their hunter. In my last video, I introduced you to Nodens, Lord of the Great Abyss. Today, we're not just talking about him. Today, we're going up there. This is the story of Thomas Olney, the only man foolish or brave enough to actually climb that cliff, to knock on that door, to meet a god face to face. But here's what makes this terrifying. In Lovecraft's universe, encountering a benevolent deity might be more dangerous than facing Cthulhu's madness, because Nodens doesn't drive you insane. He shows you the truth. And the truth, as we'll discover, is that humanity's place in the cosmos is far stranger than simple annihilation. We are pawns in a game so vast, so ancient, that our entire reality is just collateral. So let's follow Thomas Olney up that impossible cliff, into that strange high house, and discover what happens when a mortal dares to dine with gods. Before we climb, hit that subscribe button. This is part of my deep dive into the Elder Gods series, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Nodens as host is one thing. Nodens at war, that's the next chapter. Now, let's begin the ascent. Thomas Olney wasn't a typical Lovecraftian protagonist. He wasn't a scholar driven mad by forbidden knowledge, or an explorer who stumbled into cosmic horror. He was a philosopher, a wanderer, a man who looked at the world and felt incomplete. Lovecraft describes him as someone who'd traveled the world, seeking weird and exotic mysteries. He'd walked through ancient ruins, studied forgotten religions, searched for meaning in places where meaning had long decayed. And then he came to Kingsport, and he saw the house. The locals told him the same stories they'd told for generations. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. And for God's sake, don't try to reach it. But Olney wasn't like the locals. He'd seen too much to be satisfied with fear. So he asked the question that would change everything. What if I climbed up there? Here's what you need to understand. This wasn't just a steep climb. This was a geographical impossibility. Lovecraft describes the cliff as perpendicular, not just steep, but straight up. The rocks were ancient, crumbling, covered in slick moss. The mist that surrounded the house wasn't just atmospheric. It was alive, clinging, disorienting. No one had ever climbed it. No one had ever tried. Why? Because the house defied logic. It sat on a pinnacle that shouldn't support a structure. There was no path, no stairs, no logical way anyone could have built it there in the first place. It was as if the house had simply always been there. Before Kingsport, before the Native Americans, before humans walked the earth. And yet Thomas Olney decided to climb. The climb itself is pure Lovecraftian atmosphere. Olney climbs through the mist. The sounds of Kingsport below fade. The normal world disappears. He's entering a liminal space, not quite Earth, not quite the Dreamlands. His hands bleed on the rocks. His muscles scream, but he doesn't stop. And here's the critical detail Lovecraft gives us. As Olney climbs, he begins to hear music, faint, strange, not human music, but something older, pipes and flutes, playing melodies that seem to come from the air itself. This is our first hint that Nodens is aware of him, that this isn't a random intrusion, it's an invitation. Finally, exhausted, bleeding, transformed by the climb itself, Thomas Olney reaches the top, and there it is. The strange high house, ancient wood, windows that glow with soft, impossible light, a door, and that door opens. We're about to enter that house. We're about to meet Nodens face to face. But before we do, I need to ask you something. Are you actually interested in the deeper lore of Lovecraft's gods? Because I'm building something here, a complete guide to the Elder Gods, their wars, their hierarchies, their true nature. If that interests you, subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel is going deep, and the next video, Nodens at War, is going to blow your mind. Also, drop a comment. Have you read The Strange High House in the Mist? What's your theory about why Nodens lives there? Okay, let's go inside. Thomas Olney steps inside, and the house is ordinary, ancient, yes, filled with furniture from eras long forgotten, but cozy, warm, human-scaled. There are books on the shelves, volumes in languages that predate written history. There's a fireplace, crackling with a fire that casts shadows that move wrong. And there, sitting in a chair, is an old man. He has a gray beard, kind eyes. He's dressed simply. He looks like a grandfather, a philosopher, a gentle hermit. This is Nodens, Lord of the Great Abyss, and he's been waiting. Lovecraft doesn't give us dialogue. He's too smart for that. Because how do you write the words of a god without diminishing them? Instead, he tells us that they talk for hours, days, maybe. Time moves strangely in that house. Nodens speaks of the cosmos, of the Dreamlands and the waking world, and the thin membrane between them. He speaks of the great old ones and the outer gods, and the eternal war for control of reality itself. And he speaks of humanity, not with contempt, like Nyarlathotep, not with hunger, like Cthulhu, but with distance, curiosity, the way a human might observe ants building a colony, fascinated, but ultimately indifferent to individual lives. Olney listens, and for the first time in his life of wandering and seeking, he understands the universe is not hostile, it's not even evil. It's simply vast beyond comprehension. And humanities, we're a footnote, a brief spark in an infinite darkness. But here's the twist, the thing that makes this story more than cosmic nihilism. Nodens protects Thomas Olney when night falls, and in that house, night is a literal presence. Pressing against the windows, creatures come, Night Gaunts, servitors of chaos, things that hunt in the spaces between dimensions, and Nodens, with a gesture, drives them away. Why? Why would a being of such cosmic power care about one human? That's the question we need to answer. So let's break this down. Why does Nodens, a god who commands armies, who hunts Nyarlathotep himself, live in a small house on a cliff in Massachusetts? 3 theories. Theory 1. The Watchtower. The house is positioned at a weak point between our reality and the Dreamlands. Nodens lives there as a sentinel, guarding against incursions from the other gods. That's why it's so hard to reach. It's not meant for humans. Fury 2. The Philosopher King. Nodens, unlike the other elder gods, seems to value consciousness, thought, and wisdom. The house is his retreat, a place where he studies humanity from a distance, occasionally inviting those who seek knowledge. Thomas Olney was a test. Theory 3. The Prison. What if Nodens doesn't live there by choice? What if the strange high house is actually a cage, placed there by forces we don't understand? The mist, the impossible location, they keep him contained as much as they keep humans out. But let's talk about the real horror of this story. Nodens doesn't harm Thomas Olney. He doesn't drive him mad. He doesn't consume his soul. He enlightens him. And when Olney finally descends the cliff and returns to Kingsport, he's changed. Lovecraft describes him as quiet and distant. He no longer seeks mysteries. He no longer asks questions, because he got his answer. And the answer was, you don't matter. Not in a cruel way, not in a nihilistic way, but in a cosmic, absolute way. Humanities, dramas, our civilizations, our loves and wars and art, they're ephemeral, less than dust. Nodens showed him the truth, and the truth was so vast that it dwarfed everything Olney thought was important. This is the danger of encountering a good elder god. Cthulhu destroys your mind with chaos. Nodens destroys your purpose with clarity. So here's what we're left with. Is Nodens really benevolent? Or is his protection just another form of cosmic indifference? When he saves Thomas Olney from the Night Gaunts, is it kindness? Or is it the same impulse that makes us shoo a fly out a window instead of killing it? Not love, just mild preference. Lovecraft never answers this, and that's what makes the story brilliant. Nodens remains a mystery, powerful, ancient, neither good nor evil, but something beyond our moral categories entirely. He is the Lord of the great abyss, and the abyss, as Nietzsche warned us, gazes also into you. Today, we saw Nodens, the philosopher, the host, the protector, in his strange high house. But this is only one face of the Lord of the great abyss, because Nodens has another role, another purpose. He is the hunter. And in my next video, we're not visiting his home. We're joining his hunt. We're going to witness the war for Kadath, the cosmic conflict between Nodens and his Night Gaunt legions against Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos himself. We'll see Nodens not as a distant philosopher, but as a warrior god leading an army through dimensions, fighting for control of the Dreamlands. And we'll finally understand why even the great old ones fear him. If you want to see that battle, subscribe now. Turn on notifications, because when I drop that video, you'll want to be there. Comment below, Team Nodens or Team Nyarlathotep. Who do you think really controls the Dreamlands? Like this video if you enjoyed our climb into the mist. Share it with someone who loves Lovecraft. And remember, In the cosmos of the elder gods, there are no heroes, only hunters and prey. Thanks for climbing with me. See you in the next expedition into the abyss.